Once upon a time, somebody I dearly loved told me this, right? If you really love me, you wouldn't betray me. Everything went downhill from that point.
This is so interesting.
So I got married at 22.
Very young.
This is one of the relationship that I regretted the most in my life as a woman, and then you see like two men just shouting and shouting and shouting. You are the up one, you know, you are controlling her like she's crazy now because of you.
I feel that this is classic emotional manipulation from someone who has severe insecurity issues.
Hey babe, are you sure, you know, this guy that you're dating is good for you?
Wake the up.
I can still hear his heart shatter as he's like, is this what you choose?
It's like you didn't fight for yourself.
I will not sabotage this marriage.
Don't do anything that's not right.
This is my own free will.
You will sacrifice and burn everything down just to keep that.
Then there was this one time I got drunk. I recall that he was taking photographs of me vomiting.
That's fucked up, man.
He was just scolding me that, look at you, you are drunk.
And it mind fucks you.
You are being controlled in this relationship. Can you see what is happening? Wake up.
He was fighting so hard for you. He fell on deaf ears.
My family, my best friends, my social circle, they were all gone.
And then making you feel like you chose to do it.
He's like, you know, I really cannot stand it. It's just very uncomfortable stay for me.
But then they will twist it and frame it in a way like, oh, you are the offender.
And this is why I say this is when I talk about it, I get the most broken-hearted. You know what was my number one biggest mistake that I now realize?
It's very humiliating as well, embarrassing, and I'm sure there's a lot of shame as well there.
I told my therapist, is it normal to be afraid of your friends?
You were afraid of your friends.
So he said, these people that you call your friends, these are snakes, not friends.
Not true friends lah.
I f***ed up so bad. She was there outside my door. She was like, you better let me in.
Do you have something to hide?
No, I don't, and I willingly will show everything.
It's just disappointing.
I made that decision.
They are not the offender. You are the fucking offender.
On the day of the saga, most people don't know what I was doing. Did you know what I was doing?
Oh my goodness!
I'm ashamed. I'll be ashamed of this for a long time.
And I love the saga and your public downfall very, very, very much too.
Hi, I'm Sylvia and this is Dirty Messy Free. I was cancelled and now I'm back to unpack the most important chapters of my life and the hardest lessons.
Hello, I'm Dan and I am a life coach and I'm super excited to be doing this with Sylvia to go through more dirt, more mess, and ultimately get all of us liberated.
Yeah.
Are you ready for episode 2?
Yes, this is, wow, one of my favorite chapters as I was writing and unpacking everything.
So what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about loneliness
Woo!
and isolation.
Yeah. So you tend to feel lonely. You felt lonely in the past. What's the story? What's your beef with loneliness?
I think when people look at me, they wouldn't see previously, right? When they look at me, they were like, oh, this person has got it, or she has a lot of friends, she gets invited to all the most exciting parties, right? She seems to have a good relationship with a lot of people. She is not lonely.
Yeah.
But nah, it was all in the facade. Yeah.
I see.
And I think also loneliness is a topic that is good to talk about because I think after the saga, this theme comes out, which is this girl is probably really lonely right now. She has lost all her friends. She's probably alone. Is that what you thought?
The little that I know about you, you know, highly successful, very passionate about your work, you know, high visibility, vibrant life.
Yeah.
Therefore, that equates to not being lonely, being very loved and well-liked, right? After you get cancelled, right? You got cancelled. Okay, that's when people go like, this girl is alone right now. Nobody wants to go near her. She's alone. I don't want to be even near her sphere, okay? Because otherwise I'll be tainted as well, right? So people want to leave you the alone, don't want to get near you. But of course, there are strangers who will care for you and they will step forward and get closer to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's a dance with your this relationship with loneliness.
Yes.
And of course, we have to talk about the difference between being alone and being lonely. It's two separate things, yeah? Because you can be alone, but you feel not lonely.
Correct.
Yes.
So just now when I shared the successful part, that was actually the most lonely part of my life. Actually, after the saga, I felt a lot less alone.
This is so interesting. It's like an inverse relationship, right? It's an inverse correlation. Like the more outwardly people think that you are successful, the more lonely you actually felt at that time.
Yes.
Right? When you had all that external validation, but how do you feel at night? 90% of the time when you spend time with yourself, when your head hits the pillow at night, how do you actually feel?
Yes.
Do you feel loved or do you feel lonely?
No, I was so lonely, and I think I can admit now, I was lonely to the point of like desperate. I was okay with anything because I just didn't want to be alone. And I think after the saga, it gave me an opportunity to relook at the relationship.
Yes.
And I think today I've got.
We're rubbing our palms.
I'm rubbing my palms because I have figured out after doing all this self work with myself,
Yeah.
right? I figured out the moment when I pretty much doomed myself and isolated myself.
Do you remember what was that moment? How long ago was that?
Yes, I'm going to tell you 4 stories, okay? And they're all interlinked to this theme, right? And you see, you can really figure out when did that point come in when this person, which was old me, start isolating myself and becoming really lonely.
Okay, let's hear it. Come,
Okay?
tell me.
So once upon a time.
Fairy tale beginning, right? Once
Yes.
upon a time.
Yes, once upon a time, right? Somebody I dearly love told me this, right? That if you really love me, you wouldn't betray me. Okay?
If you really love me, you wouldn't betray me.
Yes. And
Okay.
if you really love and wanted this relationship to work, you wouldn't do anything to sabotage this. Okay?
Okay.
You would do the right things. Okay?
Okay.
This seemingly very normal kind of statements, right, was really the start where I, as a woman who was deeply in love, right, everything went downhill from that point onwards.
All right.
I want to share with you the first story, which is about my guy best friend.
Okay.
Okay, now a lot of people don't know that I used to have a guy best friend. His name is called Nick.
Nick.
Okay.
Okay.
And he has been my friend since we were in secondary school. And you know, in secondary school, you were uncool. You had no agendas. Like, it was your friends means it's your friend.
Right. Correct.
Right? So we've been through a lot of things together. We went for dance competitions. No, I supported him in dance competition.
Okay.
Correct?
Right.
Like, we did sports together. We went to
Wow.
his house to do, like, watch movies and things like that. And it was purely platonic. Like,
Okay. Okay.
now that I look back, he was a very caretaker. He was like that male energy in my life that was very healthy. Right? But because of this thing that this loved one said, right, my relationship with Nick really, it didn't just went downhill, it disappeared with just a phone call. Okay. So my loved one didn't like Nick. Right?
Okay.
So as a partner, he felt that it wasn't right for a female to have a male best friend that you're so close with, that you reveal everything to, you know, and somebody whose words that you value so much. And I remember at the start of my relationship, right, with my ex-partner, what happened was that he was constantly very upset every time I mentioned the word Nick, or mentioned that I said this to him, or mentioned that we even hang out or even call. And you have to understand, like, this is a person that I grew up with.
Right.
We are always calling. We were always texting.
And you knew Nick before you knew your ex-lover.
Yes.
Right.
I knew Nick. And, you know, we've been through so much. So I absolute trust in him.
Right.
My ex-partner said, when he said that to me, I was very taken aback. Because to me, Nick was almost like buy one, free one.
Okay. Yeah. Come
Like,
as the pair.
he comes with me, right?
Yeah.
Because we're best friends.
Right.
And the difficult thing was when Nick started telling me things like, hey, babe, are you sure, you know, this guy that you're dating is good for you? Because I'm starting to see you a lot less and hear from you a lot less. Are you okay? I think that was really the start, you know? And that was when I was like, really, you know? I'm like going into my bubble of a very happy, you know, romantic relationship and ignoring Nick's side a little. But I really want to get back into groove on my friendship, right? But when I told my ex-partner that, he kind of flared up. Yes. And he says like, you know, you wouldn't sabotage this marriage. if you really cared for this, right? So that is just a friend,
Okay.
right? So what happened was I decided after a long time, right? After this back and forth, always constant bickering, right? At one point, I think they wanted to call each other. I think they did call each other.
Have a
They
showdown.
Yeah, they kind of shouted at each other very, very badly.
Right.
And you know, you're always very scared as a woman, and then you see like two men just shouting and shouting and shouting.
Right.
And like, you are the up one, you know, you are controlling her, like she's crazy now because of you. So it's like crazy. I still remember I was sitting on the bed and they were just shouting on the phone. And at that point, I was like, I will not sabotage this marriage. It is the most important thing in my life. So at that point, I think I told over the phone. And then in that split moment, I told Nick, I think we can't be friends anymore.
You decided to sacrifice your friendship with Nick.
Yes. Yeah. So I said, I mean, that was something that my ex-partner has been trying to sell me the idea of, which I always rejected. But at that moment, I was like, I had enough, you know? So I told Nick, we can't be friends anymore. And I remember he was shocked.
Yep.
And I remember I can hear, I don't know if you can hear hurt or not, but I heard him hurt over the phone. And he just dropped the shouting and he was like, can you please see what's going on?
Yeah.
Along the line of, you are being controlled in this relationship.
Yep.
Can you see what is happening right now? You would never do this. And I think I remember telling him, which now that I look back, I get sad.
Yeah.
I remember telling him, nobody is controlling me. And then I said the word, this is my own free will. I'm choosing to stop being friends with you.
Except, yeah, that free will bit, it's very far away from the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, I think Nick at that time was fighting for you.
Yes.
He was fighting for what's good for you.
Yes.
And it's like you didn't fight for yourself and your best male friend was fighting on your behalf, you know.
Yes.
And I feel like if I was in his shoe, I would not only feel hurt,
Yes.
I would feel gravely disappointed.
Yes. I don't know. It's like I can still hear his heart shatter that moment. I can literally hear it right now as he's like, is this what you choose? Yeah. And then at that point, I was like, yeah, you know, nothing matters more than what I have now. So you're a best friend. I'm glad we had that. But no, right? And I say this because later I'll tell you, right, what went on after I caught up with him many years later. But I would like to tell you that this is one of the relationship that I regretted the most in my life, how I ended things.
Yeah.
That is story number one.
Story number one. We have 3 more. Okay.
Yeah. Story number 2 is, I think I was blessed with a male best friend and a female best friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My female best friend is called Carmen, right? She's lovely. Everybody loves her and she's just an amazing person. Okay. Have you met her?
No.
Oh my God. You love her.
Okay.
Like, you know, like there's nobody who don't like her. She's that kind of person. And she's
okay.
amazing.
Okay.
So I remembered at the start, I had issues, you know, so I got married at 22.
Very young.
Which most people don't know. Did you just find out today? You did, right?
No, I sort of remember that you married young, but I don't know your actual age that you got married.
Yes.
22.
Yeah. So I married really, really young. And again, I was very close to my female best friend as well.
Okay, so you already had a friendship with Carmen at that time.
Yes. We were best friends since like JC and we are like inseparable.
So Carmen came after Nick.
No, Nick came first, which was why he was the oldest friend.
Okay, so Nick then Carmen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And they know each other,
Right.
love each other.
Okay.
Yes. So I had Carmen as a best friend and we were really close. And because I married so young, right, I was very close and I was sharing a lot of relationship issues with her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember again in that same bedroom, but this time it was me nearer the bathtub. Right? I remember why, because I was crying.
Why is the location so important to you?
It's just that these are moments, right?
Right.
That
They're seared into.
yeah, they're set into, and it's like hot wire inside. So when you say what happened, I can imagine go
It just
back to that
transports
scene.
you back to that same spot.
Yes.
Okay.
So I remember that was when I just finished crying in the bathtub because
Because bathtub can collect all your tears, ma.
yes,
Oh,
no,
big enough.
because there was a shower curtain that I could like have some privacy. So I
Okay.
remember I was just finished crying in the bathtub, and I had a long conversation with Carmen, right, about how I just wasn't happy. A couple of things were cropping up that I wasn't so pleased with in the relationship, right? And I was not happy.
This was just the beginning of the relationship already, Or
Yes.
what? Okay.
Yeah. This was at the start of the marriage, right?
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So obviously I went to my partner and told him that. I said, I spoke to my best friend about it. She did say there's something wrong, and I kind of agree with her on some things, just sharing that, I did digest and unpack this with my best friend.
Yeah, something you naturally do with girlfriends, right?
Yes.
Girl talk, right?
Of course, right?
Yeah.
And I felt I was quite honest.
Yeah.
I also tell you that this is my best friend saying, and she suggested a couple of things, why don't we give it a shot? And I remember again, another moment that he flared out. He was like, how dare you tell these to third parties who had no place in this relationship? Are you trying to sabotage this? If you really love me, you would not be telling these kind of things to other people, right? You would do the right things. And that was the moment that in my brain, right, I also thought I did the wrong thing. I thought I shouldn't have told my best friend all this. Whatever he said made a lot of sense. I was also questioning myself, why did I tell a third party that I wasn't happy, correct? So in my head, I was like, okay, you are right. I think it was my fault to tell my best friend. And the crazy thing is from that point onward, every time I met Carbon, right, she always bring up, so is things better? Are things better? Girls, right? And I think she slowly got the message that conversations about my ex-partner were off limits.
You gave her that memo lah.
I think
Again and again lah.
again and again. I think she keep probing to one point that I was like, can we just stop talking about like guys and my marriage and things like that? Yeah.
And then you thought that was free will as well.
Yes. Correct. Again, I thought I was asserting myself, drawing boundaries with my friend. What are the topics that make me comfortable and what make me uncomfortable? And I think that at the beginning, she did keep asking until a point that she just stopped completely and it just went to work stuff or just any other stuff but my relationship. Right? So at that point, I didn't feel like there was anything wrong. I thought, good what? We have boundaries. So that was story number 2.
Okay, right. So cut off ties with your male best friend, right? Started to share less with your female best friend. Okay, what's the third story?
Okay, now the third story. For those of you who don't know, right, and I think most of you might not know, right, is that I didn't come from Singapore, right? I come from a village in Malaysia, right? And my parents remained not in that village, but closer to town, but they remained in Malaysia.
Okay.
Right. So essentially where I grew up, my bedroom, everything, it's in Malaysia. Right. So when I married and came over to Singapore, it was really me leaving a big part of my roots behind and the people that cared for me behind.
Yeah.
Right. So when I came over here, it took a very long time for me to adjust. When I was in a village, we grew up with maybe 8 households in the same house. So you're really talking about a big, big, big fun family.
It's like kampong spirit, right?
Yes. So when I came over, I really had a shock. I was like, oh dear, suddenly I feel like very empty. The house is so empty. It's just you and me, and the dog. Right? And I was really trying to cope with the loneliness, right? And I always wanted to go back to Malaysia. Every other day or every other week, I'll be like, let's go back to Malaysia because I want to see my mom. Right? And at the beginning, it was things like, it's very late, customs is jammed, let's not go back. So I was like, okay, whatever, then we won't go back. And then it was slowly, I didn't pump petrol today, can we not go back? Just small excuses. And then after a while, I realized that whenever, Chinese New Year, I'll say, then we have to go back. Now that I look back, I realized that all those experiences were very, very not nice for me, right? So what happened is that I remember this time when we went back, right? He was quite rude about it. He was like, next time can we don't go back to your Malaysia house because there's a lot of mosquitoes in your room. And I was like, number one, it's quite a kampong area, right? Although it's the town side of it, right? And it is my house, so don't be mean about it. And like, what's a few mosquitoes going to harm us from going back? My family is there, right? And he's like, I really cannot stand it. yeah, it's just very uncomfortable stay for me. And then slowly it became more of, I don't really enjoy going there at all. And then it became, your father always talks to me about very weird things like, can we just not avoid that?
So lots of reasons why you shouldn't go back.
Correct, yes. And then it became, let's not even go back at all. And then obviously I protested a bit. I was like, how can we not, right? And then it became, I go back myself, lor.
Yeah.
Right? So I went back myself. But when I come back, it was also equally hard for me. It wasn't like, oh, how was it with your parents, right? It was good for you then, you went and I had to deal with this when you're not around. And good for you then that, good lah, you have a family, I don't, because his family side is
Right.
different. Yeah. So, go. So, either ways, it felt like if I went back, it was wrong. And I had to deal with a lot of unnecessarily drama from him. A lot of tantrum. But even if I went back myself, right, I had to come back to a lot of guilt tripping, a lot of... So in the end, I just told my parents, I'm just really busy, right? I will come back once or twice a year, which if you think about it is crazy because I used to stay there. That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
Like literally my clothes are still in the wardrobe that my mom doesn't want to throw away. So to leave that and just be here and then not be able to really go back, that was what happened to me. And that's the third story.
Okay.
Are you getting a sense of what's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the fourth story?
So I used to have this group of friends, right, that, we're 22, right? So we hang out, we drink, we go to
Fun.
parties, right? Like that group of social friends. So what happened was that my ex-partner, he always was against me drinking. He always said like, that's such a bad habit of yours. I hate people who drink, people lose control, and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember that he really, really gave me a lot of, again, like temper and tantrum whenever I went out to drink, right? And then there was this one time I got drunk on Halloween, which, by the way, I would like to say among our friends is normal.
Okay.
Right? It's almost tradition to get drunk on Halloween with a group of friends. And I was drunk. And I remember I was vomiting outside the house, which was normal because I knew what to do. Vomit finish, I can clean up.
Okay.
Right? Like you have that group of wretched friends.
Right.
So I remember I was vomiting. And vaguely, I recall that he was taking photographs of me vomiting.
Why would he do that?
Right? And you wonder why he was doing that, right?
Instead of helping you,
No, he was just scolding me that look at you,
I still
you
got
are
time for
drunk.
pictures.
Yes, I remember flashing photos, right? And I was in this really ugly outfit, but yeah. But what happened was the next day.
Right.
So I forgot that he was taking photos. But the next day, friends started coming to me and apologizing. They were like, hey, Sil, I'm so sorry that we got drunk last night. And I was like, what's the issue here, right? And then a couple of them was like, hey, babe, how about next time we don't, we stop hanging out and drinking, maybe if we drink, we don't ask you along. So I was like, hey, what is going on, right? We've been drunk since we were in JC. What's the issue? Correct. And then I realized, because I spoke to one of them, and she was like, so your ex-partner actually sent us your drunk photos and really berated all of us. And he said things like, look at y'all making her drunk, this kind of thing shouldn't happen. So he was really reprimanding them. And eventually what happened was that this group of friends, they also slowly say that, it's very hard to hang out with you now because it seems like we're getting you into trouble with your relationship and everything. So we're also going to, slowly, let's not hang out. Right? So that is my drunk story and the fourth story.
Okay.
And are you able to tell, right, what is the theme and the reasons why I share all stories?
I feel that this is classic emotional manipulation from someone who has severe insecurity issues, right? And that person outsources that emotional responsibility to you so that he can feel better and feel more secure. And this is classic destroying your support network and stripping it piece by piece away, starting from Nick, and then Carmen,
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and your fun friends that you hang out
Yes.
with, right?
Exactly.
And then making it feel like you chose to do it
Yes.
because our marriage or our relationship is sacred,
Yes.
right? It is the one true north, right? And you have to do everything to protect it. If you truly love me, and by the way, I'm testing you, if you truly love me, you will not do anything to cause harm and sabotage the relationship, and you will do what is right. Now, what is right to this person? What is right is whatever makes me f***ing happy.
Yes.
The moment you make me displeased, that is wrong. And you are
Correct.
sabotaging our relationship.
Yes.
Classic moves.
Yes.
Correct or not?
Correct.
猜对吗?
No, like it is exactly that.
Yeah.
And as you say that, right, I can feel it coming from here. It was also not just those 4 cases. It was your phone can't have a password, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, like I have to know who you're hanging out with. You have to let me check your phone at any point in time, yeah?
Yeah.
Whatever meetings that you're going out, you better let me know who is it,
Yeah.
yeah? So it was a lot of these small things. And what I realized is, and I can put it now into very, very clear picture was, right? Essentially what I was doing was I stripped myself off my support network layer by layer, like an onion,
Yeah.
right? So from those who are the closest to me and really people who I know will always love me and support me, right? My family. I became like the daughter who was every day at home to the daughter that comes back once a year, right? So I literally, like, my family felt so apart from me. Like, there was nothing to connect us anymore, you know, when it came to that point. So that was my first layer that I willingly stripped away. The second layer were my 2 best friends. One that I just kept a filter on, and another which I completely cut off, right? And then the next one is the next layer of fun friends. That as well, right? In a way, they were chased away or they just drifted apart because of how difficult it was to maintain a relationship with me. So essentially, my family, my best friends, my social circle, they were all gone. And you know what was my number one biggest mistake that I now realize as a woman that I did? It was really stupidly believing, right, that a marriage or a romantic relationship was the one true ultimate relationship of them all.
Yeah. And that is the most important, and you will sacrifice and burn everything down just to
Yes.
keep that most important relationship alive, right?
Yes. And it's crazy when you look at it like this because all of this, when they went away, I thought it was my free will,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I was the one who chose to say that I can sacrifice all this for you.
You were an enabler.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But this is very clever and very shrewd. And this is where I want to drop a new framework. You know, what I call the DARVO effect. Do you know about the DARVO effect?
I've heard about it, but tell us more.
Right. So DARVO is spelled, it's an acronym, it's spelled DARVO. And I find this framework super useful for identifying the mechanism of what happens when you have a narcissist in your life.
Okay.
Okay, and we are going to connect that to that piece where you willingly
Yes.
thought that you had free will to exercise on certain decisions and cut away all these important bits of your
Yes.
life. Now, it is the DARVO effect in motion. So DARVO is DARVO. It stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender.
Okay.
Okay? So the first thing that a narcissist would do is they would deny any wrongdoing. If you were to bring something or any disagreement or a fault, they will plainly deny it. Now, they don't stop there. They almost immediately attack you. They will attack you, so it makes it you are the one at fault. So they reverse the victim and offender role.
Yes.
So now
Yes.
they are not the offender. You are the
Correct.
offender, and I'm the victim here. So now, don't do anything that's not right. Don't do anything that will sabotage our relationship. You are the one doing the
Yes.
offending.
It really
And
feels
it
like
mind
that.
f***s you. Right? And this is just classic manipulation. So DARVO, remember that. They will deny,
Yes.
they will attack, and they will reverse the roles of victim and offender.
Yes, and I want to point that out because like when he told me like have to stop putting password in your phone and you have to show me all your texts, right? You in the mind you know that hey, this is not right. You know, a normal relationship, nobody's going to ask you to. You're entitled to your
But
privacy.
then they will twist it and frame it in a way like, oh, you are the offender.
Yes, like,
How?
do you have something to hide? And then
Yes.
I was like, no, I don't. And I willingly will show everything. And that's why when you say like they reverse, they
Reverse
really
it.
reverse.
Because it starts off as this is a privacy thing. It doesn't mean that because you're my other half, you have access to all my stuff, right?
Correct.
It's privacy, right? It's basic integrity and respect for a human being. It's basic human decency. But they
Yes.
twist it and say, oh, do you have something to hide?
Yes, every time. And then I find myself giving like all these things that I have like willingly just to defend myself.
They're
that
very good at twisting.
right?
Master manipulators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is the VO?
Victim, offender, the role. They reverse RVO, reverse victim, offender.
Oh
They
my
deny,
gosh.
they attack,
Yes.
then they reverse.
Yes. And that is what I
It's
constantly...
gaslighting, basically, right?
Yes, it is.
So you played into that manipulation, that DARVO effect,
Yes.
willingly.
Yes.
And they're very clever because they will tell you things when they reframe things and when they twist the situation.
It seems
there's always
right.
there's always a certain amount of truth in it, right? Like there are mosquitoes in your home.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's
Yeah.
unpleasant to have mosquitoes. Yeah, nobody likes mosquitoes,
Yes.
right? But then it gets
Yeah.
further and further away from the actual thing, which is mosquitoes or not, I'm going back because I love my family and I want to see them.
Yes.
Right? You don't like mosquitoes, you can don't go. I go. Now, you're damned when you do that as well.
Yes.
Because now it's not about the mosquitoes.
Yes. Now it was, we had work and then you left
You good
me.
law, you go law, you enjoy law, you leave me alone law. You are the offender. I'm the victim.
Yes.
Right? They deny the actual topic that you're talking about, which is you going home to visit your loved ones.
Yes.
They remove you from that topic and then they attack you with a fresh new angle.
Yes.
Then you are disagreeing about something else already.
Exactly.
Classic, I tell you.
Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors.
It is.
Yeah.
Right. So now that I look back, right, I realized like my biggest mistake, right, wasn't actually not seeing through all this, but it was my relationship, right, with myself.
Yes.
That I wasn't strong enough, right,
Yes.
to say things like, you can't touch my family. That
Yes.
is non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah, you can't touch my male best friend. Nick is a non-negotiable. You can't touch Carmen. She's a non-negotiable. And I'm going drinking with my fun friends because that's also a non-negotiable.
I tell you, a man who is secure emotionally will think that this is f***ing sexy. For a woman to say it like that, you can't touch my best friend, you can't touch my family, you can't touch my drinking friends, my buddies. My relationship with you is sacred and is untouchable too. I will never condone anyone, my best friend, my family, to say that I shouldn't hang out with my loved one also. So I will expect the same from you, right? Now, someone who is insecure will feel very threatened when you say something like that.
Yes, correct. So I realized a couple of things. And then now, remember my onion? Right?
Yes.
So I got my first layer,
Yeah.
second layer, and third layer stripped away, right? So when the saga happened, everybody was saying that, oh, poor Sylvia, right? All her friends betrayed her. She must be a bad friend for all her closest people to betray her,
She deserves it.
right? And now when we look at this, right, the truth was that these people I had in my circle, right, they were never my level 1s or level 2s or even level 3s, right? At that point in the relationship, I was so starved of anybody to even like just rant or even just talk or even, to have support that I know whatever I do, I can just up and this person will love me anyway. I am stripped of all that, right? That I was pretty much like a beggar. And I made very poor man choices, right? To the point where, okay, so I went to this company, right? And there were all these people, and it's all like, wow, fluffy, we're for show, we do a lot of photo shoots together, we're always hugging and we always look like we're best friends. honesty,
Right.
right? That's what it looked. But the truth is that these were never people that are there for me.
Fair weather friends, would you say?
Okay, if I were to be very honest, it's not just fair weather friends, but remember when I told you that I told my therapist, is it normal to be afraid of your friends?
You were afraid of your friends.
I was really afraid of this group of people.
Why? They would harm you or?
Because I've always felt that the dynamic was very unsafe. And I will tell you why. It's because it always seems like I can remember scenarios where this person will come to me and he'll say, hey, Sylvia, I really enjoy working with you. You're, like, I really respect you. You're almost like my mentor and everything. Can I have more jobs in this genre? Because I feel I'm really good at it.
Okay.
And then I'm like, yeah. And I feel so like motivated at that point. Then I'm like, okay, let me, because I do BD, right?
Yes.
Business development.
Yes.
So I'll go all out to like really give this person what they want. Okay. And that's not just it, right? And then I'll have somebody come in and like call me in the middle of the night and be like, hey babe, like just had a really difficult conversation or relationship with my
boyfriend,
right? Can you come down to my house and like we'll just like chat lah,
Hang,
and heart to heart.
Yeah.
So to me it was like, I could be very tired after a day of shoot and whatever, but I will go.
Yeah.
I'll go because I'll feel like she really needs me. I'm very important. And then we'll spend the whole time really like speaking about her problems and like just trying to basically hear her out.
Right. That's great, right?
Yes, it sounds
what's the
really
problem?
great, right? Okay, it's really very sad, okay? And that is, do you know when I had a divorce and it was very public, do you know none of these people came and asked me, how are you doing?
So these people you showed up for, they didn't show up for you in your time of need.
Yes. And there was only one guy out of all of this, right, who really showed himself to be a friend, that he actually said, are you okay? One out of so many. And it's crazy because everybody knew that my divorce was very painful, very big, right? And what's also sad is on the day of the saga, most people don't know what I was doing, right? Did you know what I was doing on the day that it landed on social media?
I don't know. Doing your lashes.
No.
What were you doing?
We were actually on shoot. We were on shoot on a cruise. And I was on cruise with a couple of these friends and talent.
Okay.
We were hugging, we were taking photos, we were doing close girlfriend shots on the deck, wherever it is.
It's very superficial.
Right?
Right.
And it was that same moment that it dropped. Right? And none of these girls actually asked, are you okay?
And you were all on the cruise while it happened.
Yes.
And nobody asked you.
No.
That's f***ed up, man.
And I'll tell you one even crazy thing. So one of them I actually bumped into her in town, right? She just pretended she didn't know me and she just...
Just siam lah, like...
No, and we were in the lift. We were in the lift.
So blatant!
And she just like looked the other side and pretended.
You are?
Exactly.
Do I know you?
And it's crazy because, I look at my, Instagram, I look at whatever, and I was like, wow.
Wow.
Like anybody who looked at this would have thought that we were the best of friends. Like, but
So ouch.
this is the out, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I actually went to my life coach to really deal with this because it's so painful, right? Like, wow, how can this happen? And then I worked so hard, and this is something that I feel sad for, is I worked so hard for these people in the sense that, in a way, whatever they request as a friend, I always thought I did my best to fulfill.
Yeah.
You
show up lah.
I really showed up, And while they didn't show up for me in certain ways, I was still friends with them till the end, in the sense that maybe it was really one-sided on my side, right? And I actually went to my life coach then. I had a really, really fierce life coach, which I really needed at that time, right? And I asked him, one thing I really can't get over is why my friends do this to me. Guess what he said to me?
Slap you.
Yes.
Wake the f*** up.
It was that on many, many levels,
Yep.
right? I think I cried for many days after.
Yeah, yeah.
So he said, these people that you call your friends, right? Can you stop using the term friends? These are snakes, not friends. Because friends would never do this to you. Can you please understand it now? And because he was so fierce and he said it in a tone like, don't negotiate, I was very hurt, you know. Because it meant that all these years, what was I keeping around me?
Snakes.
Because he asked me, why haven't they come and, you know, help you out at this point in time? And I said, yeah, it's because they are also facing the saga, you know, some remnants of it. They also have difficult times. I was literally still justifying why they can't be there for me. And he was just like, wake up. And yeah, so I cried. And then I went home to digest what he said. I was just very ashamed of myself because on one hand, I was like, how low have you fallen that you knew all these were going on? You knew these relationships were all very extractive, and yet you were so desperate. You were so afraid to be alone, right? That you stuck by them, right? Pretended and took part in that facade that you were friends just so that you didn't want to admit that you were alone and you felt alone. And that was something that I had to grapple with, that the truth is I was lonely. I was desperate. I chose bad friends. It was not about them being good or bad. It's I had a choice, right? And I decided to devote time, energy to feed all these things.
Yeah. Because you were a beggar, you couldn't choose well, right? A beggar cannot be a chooser. So any Tom, Dick, and Mary that comes into your life that can give you some modicum of connection, you would take it.
I would take it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you were so isolated.
I was so isolated, and I think I was not mature as well. That honestly, right? Remember, I went to your podcast and I said that I thought friends gossip, right?
Yeah.
It was not just that. It was me not understanding that all these things, right? All these gossiping and sharing salacious news, right? This kind of trauma bonding is not connection.
It is low vibrational connection. It's still a form of connection. It's hot wiring connection. This is why we have pantry gossip at work in a corporate place where people gossip about toxic bosses behind their backs over lunch, over mee pok ta, you know, all those kind of things. And then you feel that this sense of camaraderie, you know, a sense of togetherness because you villainify someone.
Yes.
Right? We have a common enemy, someone to pour our judgment on, hang our judgment on. So we feel good temporarily because now we're on the same page. And the hot wiring connection that is fucking superficial.
Yes.
Low vibrational stuff.
Yes.
And it worked for you because you were vibrating so low at that time.
Yes.
You didn't take your own vibration.
No.
That's why you made low vibrational choices when it came to relationships.
Yes.
And many people out there are still hot wiring that way, where gossip feels so good to the nervous system. Because why? The nervous system yearns for that low vibrational crap.
Yes. And on the same vein, right, back to like the first part of my story, I also could not see that form of manipulation and enmeshment was not love.
It was extractive, transactional.
Yes.
Right.
Right. And every time he manipulated me and then he gave all that drama, right? In my head it was, oh, this must be love. Because it's difficult. We have to push
Work for
through.
it. Yeah.
You know?
And in a way, it was like, it's very riling, you know, lots of emotions, you
Yes.
know. It feels intense.
Yes, intense, right? So the intensity, that up and down, that roller coaster.
Yes.
I really mistook, okay, this group of friends, I really mistook that for true connection. The same way I think I mistook that roller coaster emotional ride with my ex-partner as true love.
Yes.
You know, in my head it was like, oh, this is the ultimate relationship. There's bound to be ups and downs and we've got to ride the wave. It's got to be difficult, otherwise it's not worth it. And because it's difficult, I'm going to fight so hard for
Yeah,
it.
and because you work at it, therefore you're proving your love.
Yes, it was. that.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes, and that is my level 4 group of support network
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
So when that fell apart during the saga, a lot of people are like, oh, so poor thing. But I went to my therapist. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't need to go to her house and HTHT anymore.
Yes. It's a shakeout.
Yes. It's crazy because most people don't know that.
Yeah.
And they really think, it's different. But my therapist was like, oh my God, babe.
Yeah.
Right? Like that draining relationship, is it still there? And I was like, no, they left.
Yeah, it was a grand shakeout. It's almost like the saga became a 照妖镜, It became this big mirror, cosmic mirror that really magnified everything, showed you the true colors and the truth. And yeah, it sucked, right?
Yes.
You were hurt. It was very unpleasant to be confronted by the brutal truth. It's very humiliating as well, embarrassing. And I'm sure there's a lot of shame as well there. We can unpack all of that in another episode. But that's the part of the clarifying process, right? For you to have this grand shakeout and filter all these people off. Because if not, they will still be in your life.
Yes.
Right? Because these people are feeders.
Yes.
They feed
yes.
on
And
you.
I want to say also, because these kind of extractive relationships, they are not obvious.
It's very subtle.
It really feels like at that point, like these people truly loved and cared for me. And I can also say, right, I'm guilty of feeding off that sense that I felt I was important in their life. Especially when they call me at 12 a.m. and say that, I need you to hear me out. I really felt important.
Yeah, wanted, you feel empowered as well to be in a position to help someone, right? And it actually allows you an opportunity to show your support and love for your friend.
Yes.
Right? In times of need, you showed up. But where the equation failed was when there was an opportunity for the person to show up for you, that person didn't show up. MIA.
Yes. Didn't
even say or ask after you. Nary a word. And I've been in that situation before with my ex-best friend of 27 years, And it's very interesting to talk about this because I have always, for more than 2 decades, thought that we are 阿高秋季, we are the best of friends, right? And I thought that the other person felt the same towards me.
Yes.
And it took me 2 decades to find out on one fine day that, hey, maybe this is lopsided. And I tell you when I found out.
Yes.
It was when I visited both her home, her new home, and also her office. Okay. And in my home, I would have pictures of us through the decades. We've done so many countless things together.
Yes.
Trips, projects, shows, events, family events, friend events, birthdays, everything, right? I would have countless photos of all of us because I really celebrated and loved her, right? When I went to her office and her home, I walked around, 一张照片都没有, not a single photo of us. I don't need you to put a portrait of me, I'm not so egoistic, but not a single photo of us.
Yes.
And we had so many photos. And that was when I started to have and not only that, no photos, never mind. Maybe you are minimalist, you don't like photos, but no, there were a lot of photos of a lot of Tom, Dick, and Marys. A lot. Right. And that was when I started to question, wow. Okay, and I'm not that superficial. That's just a clue, right? Now, this is a friend whom I would drop anything and everything at a phone call. Yeah. This is a friend that I will fly all the way to the country that she was in to bail her out, to help her, to be there, to be a crying shoulder. I've been there multiple times, right? I love it. I did it willingly, okay? I'm not complaining. But during the one time when I needed her and I reached out, and that's once in a blue moon, maybe once in 20 years. I made that phone call, asked for help.
What did she say? What did she say?
Just not free. I'm not important enough. And I had to call and say, where the are you? You didn't turn up. This is so important for me. Bunch of excuses, right? Then after that, I had to yell and say, you know what? This is alarming. This is just so illuminating for me. The one time that I requested for your presence, you failed me miserably. I don't even need you to come now. Yes. But then after that, showed up lah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go through this kind of confrontation, I don't want to have to demand for it because it's just very sour. Yes. And there's no point for me to demand, right? And it's very lopsided. So I've been there as well. It's just disappointing,
Yes.
right?
It is, right?
It
So
is.
it's really in times of trouble where you can really see if somebody truly see you as a good friend as well,
yeah.
right? And I think the first thing is, if they don't show up for you, that, the sad thing is at that point, remember I was still trying to justify for them. But the sad fact is sometimes just believe the reality. Let
Yes.
reality speak for itself. If they
Yes.
don't show up, they chose not to show
Yeah,
up.
yeah. I want to talk about the period whereby when f***ed up things happen to you and you try to reason and find explanations for other people's ill and bad behavior, right? Because it almost feels like if you can find a reason to explain their weird behavior or their lack of love for you, then you still matter. Right? But actually, no, these people have just decided that you're not important enough.
Yes.
It's lopsided and they just plainly abandon you
Yes.
in moments of need.
Yes.
Not true friends lah.
Yes, I think then whatever you're saying is quite so similar to what my coach said at that time. And it's very painful to hear. It's very, very painful to hear because there's always a part of you that you will always hold on to the hope that he is really your friend. He just can't show up today,
Yeah.
but he will show up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then it became, he will show up tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And then the next day he doesn't show up.
Yeah.
And in my case, right, it was a very difficult time. And it was just perhaps, if, it gets better for him, he will really show up.
It's the same lah. When I look back at the lack of photographs in my friend's house and office, right? I came up with a lot of cookie reasons. I go like, I made it my problem. I started to blame myself for feeling this way. I go like, Dan, you are f***ing shallow, man. You are taking a lack of photographs of you in her house and office to mean something, to mean that you're not important. Maybe photos are not important at all. You start to gaslight yourself,
Yes.
Because you want to, at the end of the day, not give up on the notion that this mattered to both of you.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, then what happened? All this shakeout and realizing that you had snakes around you. Then what happened next?
Oh, this one is very fun.
Yeah.
Because after I really cried very hard, then and I really did.
You just have to mourn and grieve.
I really grieve. I grieve for myself, right? The me that worked so hard for people that, that I didn't matter to them at all. So painful to even say it now.
It's okay. You know what? We talk about the dirty, messy bits. That's what this whole show is all about.
So after admitting that, no, you really don't mean a thing to these people. No, they don't love you, right? You are going to be lonely as long as you continue staying in this space because there was never love given to you to begin with, right? That's when I started going back and relook at my 4 circles.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I relook at my 4 circles. I started with, wow, and this is what I really spent a lot of money on life coaching on. Maybe also because of how big, solving the idea of loneliness is, that I chose to pretend everything was okay. Because the first step I had to deal with was admitting that I need to solve the dynamics within my family. All right. And I used to always, say, oh, I have a great family. It's big, fun, lovely. Everybody is great. Right. We love each other. But families are not like that. Families can be challenging.
Of course.
Right. And that also meant me dealing with the fact that I had a very estranged relationship with my dad. Right. And also the fact that my mom was abused by my dad growing up. And I had to deal with that and say, okay, so this is the reality of my family, right? This is my level 1. I'm not going to come back into level 1 and pretend that everything is okay. I'm going to accept that this was a difficult, dysfunctional, abusive family, right? And how can I still love them? And how can I, this time as I come back and have them in my life, right, really accept the truth of what my family really looks like? That took so much work. it took so much work then, even for me, to do any kind of forgiveness work for my parents and things like that, right? And, I was quiet for 2 years, right? And people
Yeah.
must be wondering, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This thing about my family, it took at least 6 months before I could even speak to my dad, for instance. Yeah. So to even go back to my level 1, it was admitting so much things. It's like another kind of worms if you want to really do this the right way this time.
It's the whole book in itself, It's not even a chapter. I feel
Yeah.
that this is a whole book.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I had to deal with that whole family thing.
Yeah.
Right, I had
yeah.
to deal with the pain, the whatever, right? And our relationship is a lot better now, right? And I'm happy with how my level 1 is progressing.
You're still doing the work right now?
I'm still doing the work right now, and I think I send out newsletters to my coaches sometimes,
Yeah.
and I always don't
sugarcoat.
this part about my family, that it is still hard. It is still 2 steps forward, one
And you know
step
what?
back.
I think people need to hear that. Because otherwise, a lot of people will still continue to pretend that everything is candy colored, candy floss and everything. Or like we don't admit the reality, we don't own our own reality. And I feel that it is in the moment where you open up to the reality, the messiness and the dirtiness of everything,
Yes.
that's when your empowerment is regained
Yes.
in one fell swoop. It might feel terrible and very unpleasant, but that's when your power comes back to you.
So I'm in that stage now.
Right, okay.
In my level 1.
Thank you for not sugarcoating it.
Family, level 1, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Correct. And then level 2, my best friend. I think that was easy because during the saga, I would like to say she's the best person in the world for me.
So common.
Yes. Like, honestly, as a best friend, sometimes I always ask myself during the relationship, right? What have I done to deserve you? Because I'm never there for you. And I can admit, I had to admit this, that during that 10 years when she was my best friend, she was showing up for me. She was trying her best. I was not only not telling her stuff, right? Every time she needed me, I wasn't there. I really wasn't there. And I really have to tell her, like, oh my God, you are an angel for sticking around.
Right. Do you think she would be, in another parallel universe, Carmen would be doing a podcast with another Daniel talking about an extractive friend called Sylvia for fucking 10 years?
Then that was what I was doing to her.
Right?
Yes. Because me not being there, showing up for her, right? She really didn't have support from a best friend who really should,
Right.
Yeah.
Does she have any resentment towards you? You
No,
think?
I tell you, it's crazy. Because the moment the saga dropped, right? The moment I landed from my shoot, right?
Yeah.
Bitch was at my door. Like.
Okay.
She was there. So she was there outside my door. She was like, you
Carmen.
better let me in.
We need more Carmens in our life.
And I was like, I fucked up so bad, babe. And like, I wasn't there for you. And I didn't even call you here. And you are already at my door.
True friend, this one must keep close
Right.
to your pocket. The pocket that's close to your heart.
Yeah, so she was there. I remember when the saga dropped, that was such a scary day, right? And she, she's just like, she's pretty, she's like clean, she's gorgeous, that kind, right? And my sofa is kind of gross, to be very honest. And she's like, cannot lah, today I cannot go home, I will sleep here. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
People show up when it matters. It's
Yes.
雪中送炭, It's like in times of winter, you turn up at someone's home with a bundle of charcoal,
yes.
Yeah.
That's what you talk about.
Family, friends.
Friends,
yeah.
right? Now you make me. So what I had to realize was
Yeah.
I really had this goal. I really was holding to this piece of gold that I really didn't treasure.
You
which
had
was-
them.
Yes, I had my
Yeah.
best friend all along.
Yeah.
It was just a certain mentality, right, that made me sacrifice her for what I thought was better.
I'm so glad Carmen stayed around long enough for you to see that
I
in her, that she was
know.
gold.
She was gold. She,
And she
is
is gold.
gold. Yes.
Yeah.
Carmen settled, right? And it wasn't even a difficult relationship. I feel like when somebody really, really loves you,
Yeah.
right? I think she said something that almost made me cry again, right? Which is something along the line of like, to her, this is just going to be a really short period
Yeah.
of our friendship.
Yeah.
So if me not showing up for her for maybe 5 years, it's so short, right? So she'll just accept that I didn't show up for her for 5 years because there's many more years to come in this relationship.
You know, yeah.
So what is 5 years of you ignoring me?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that is friendship.
Yeah. She had the capacity and it runs
Yes.
very, very deep and wide.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to her, this friendship is very clear. It's going to be in the decades. We're going to be here forever.
It's a marathon, man.
Yes. So what is 5 years that you
It's just a
disappear
blip.
in your... yeah.
Then what about Nick?
Oh, this one I also cried. I remember... well, every time I think of these kind of things, I'll cry because I'll go back to the scene.
Yeah.
So I was at Gardens by the Bay, around the area. I was taking a walk by myself. And then I finally had the courage to call Nick. Right? So I was like, I need to tell Nick that I had a divorce. In fact, when my divorce happened, right, he was the second person I called after Carmen.
And this is after not communicating with him for a very long time.
Yes.
Yet you felt this urge to ring him up.
Yes. And this is why I say this is one of my most, like, when I talk about it, I get the most brokenhearted.
Yeah.
It was because even after not talking for him to 10 years, in my head, the moment I divorced, immediately the thought is, you need to tell Carmen and Nick, okay? Like, he was always still my best friend. You know, this is how much I have betrayed this relationship
And it
sacrificed.
was the one true relationship that you sacrificed
Yes.
in order to meet the demands
of somebody else.
of somebody else and your fake ideology of what a relationship should look like.
Yes.
You sacrificed what was really good. He was being abandoned and sacrificed. And I guess that's why at a drop of a hat, when you divorced, and he spoke truth, right? He was fighting so hard for you.
Yes.
He spoke truth. It fell on deaf ears.
Yes.
So I think that part of you, that part of you that still, that heard that truth, but didn't respond to that
Yes.
years ago,
Yes. You
has
see, I
now
can...
awakened.
Yes.
And that's why the first person you're going to call, the second person you're going to call was Nick.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
I knew, you are right. I knew that he was fighting for me. I knew that
Yeah.
everything he said was true. And you know how sad it is that I sacrifice, like if you're Nick and I sacrifice you, just like that. I think that is painful.
It's like I was so dispensable even though I was fighting for her.
Yes. And the reason why I always cry is because, no, you really was not dispensable. You were so, so, so important to me.
Did you say all this to him when you...
So I think I did.
Yeah.
So I had a long cry while looking at Gardens by the Bay. And it's sad because, you know what's the funny thing? I still remember his number and I don't remember numbers. So I was like, there's these 8 numbers I have to call.
Right.
And I called him and he picked up. And he immediately was like, Sylvia, how are you? Like, it's you. I know it's you. Right? And I was like, so I had a divorce now and blah, blah, blah. I'm so sorry for that. I abandoned everything, our relationship had. And I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. And of course, he was very nice about it. But I was sad the more I hear about it because he was very nice about it, number one. And number two, he was sharing about how, oh, Sil, I have a daughter now. And wow, that was so painful because to me, it was, I missed the most important parts of his life as a friend. Growing up, we always say one day we'll get married.
Yeah, those are the things that
And then
say
you have to,
because,
you have to be the MC at my party, okay?
Yeah.
You have to be my best friend, right? And I remember all these promises we made each other, and I didn't show up for any of it. He got married and I wasn't there. Right? He had a kid and I wasn't there. So when he said that I have a kid now, I was so sad because of all the unfinished, unfulfilled promises I made to him. Yeah. So I had a very long cry.
Yeah.
And he's like, we can always catch up again. But to me, it's clear and simple. I've really disappointed you,
And did you catch up again?
So I didn't catch up again after that, right?
Why?
Because, then when I call him, right, it really feels like this was a completely new person and he had this great life. He really, right? we are so close until, you know, we were nerdy and then we didn't have our first girlfriend, that kind. And he had his first girlfriend and I was there. Yeah. So I literally know every of his girlfriend. And it just saddens me and breaks me completely. I don't even know who was his wife. I didn't know how this most important relationship in his life went. So to me, it was a lot of guilt, a lot of disappointment in myself, right? And also the fact that in my head, probably that's what I was telling myself, Nick, you don't really deserve a friend like this who can't show up for you, right? So now that you have a great life, I'm not going to come back and be like, nah, look at me, I got divorced and you know, I got no friends. Because to me, it was like, wow, I made that decision. So I deal with the consequences. And the consequences mean that I have to move on, right? Without this great person, then, yeah.
I think some of the most precious relationships are those that doesn't really require you to have proximity, yet you feel so close and heartbroken at the same time.
Yes.
And I've had relationships like this before also, where there was some wrongdoing on my part. There was this friend of mine who, when we were much younger, came and professed his love for me, wrote letters, you know, like handwritten mail came to my PO box, you know, that kind of, this was way before social media, or you can DM or swipe left or right. And it was very personable and, you know, came to the PO box and professed his love. And I freaked out, you know, because he was a guy, right? So I freaked out and we were very good friends. And then suddenly I had flashbacks of times when he really was very, quite physical with me in a very innocent way, like, you know, hand over the shoulder and whatever, or asking, what shampoo do you use? How come you smell so nice, you know? And then it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, he was interested in me all along. And I really didn't handle that well at all. And somehow the whole school knew about this thing, and it kind of, I would say, destroyed our friendship. And I just didn't manage it well at all. And all along, all the years, I have harbored this, I've carried with me this guilt,
Yes, it's guilt
of a wrongdoing that I find it so hard to wash off.
Yes.
You know, I almost feel tainted.
Yes.
And even after many years, there were occasions where I had the opportunity to kind of, maybe once every 10 years, I would have an opportunity to meet him in a school event, or when I go overseas, I bump into him and stuff. And we will have a conversation. And I almost feel like I want to talk about it, but it's so long gone.
Yes.
And somehow, even when you surface the conversation, it will somehow, in very broad strokes, be moved on quickly without you having the time to really seriously relay how sincerely sorry you are.
Yes.
And it breaks me. And when that person has moved on and seems to be happy, has built a new life and everything, and you think about all the what ifs and what could have if this person continued to be in your life from then on. And so I totally understand that.
Yes.
That
Right.
it's very strange mixed bag of feelings. But yet, you know, the ship has sailed.
Yes, the ship has sailed.
Yeah, and at that point in time, but I just want to recognize and acknowledge what a beautiful, sacred thing it is that you remembered Nick as a person you really needed to relay the message across at that pivotal point in your life where you decided to let go of that relationship, which was the reason why you sacrificed him. You know, I need you to acknowledge how sacred it is.
It is.
It's not easy, you know.
It is. That's why people always say you cry over what? I always cry over
I understand.
Nick,
I totally get it.
I always
totally
cry
get it.
over this.
It's
It's really a case where, you know, in Chinese we say, it's 我对不起他.
Yeah.
It's in every way I have let him down as a friend. And in every way he has stood up for me.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed. I'll be ashamed of this for a long time.
It is. I know.
Yes.
We have to process this, right? And we have to give it language. I think it's so important for me to, you know, doing this show, I think that my role that I want to play is to give language and vocabulary to the experiences that you have in life. And where I can meet you are especially those experiences and events in my life where I felt it was similar. And I think that's when I can show up powerfully for our conversation.
Yes.
Because I feel like we can unpack so much insight, give it language, and then the people who are listening can go like, oh, I think this is exactly why I felt so messed up. right? Why do I have so many feelings going into that conversation? Why do we have why are there certain friendships that just can't be, but it is so precious and we still keep it in our pocket, close to our hearts?
Correct.
Right? And it is bittersweet. It is
yes.
It's so bittersweet.
It is really bittersweet, right? So that is my circle 2, which... Oh, right. Can you imagine, like, unpacking one nick is so tough. I had to unpack all this,
So,
right?
okay, so what's next?
So after unpacking nick, right, I really looked at my social circle, right? So obviously my drinking friends all got married, all had their life,
Stop
right?
drinking, right?
Stop.
Stop vomiting, right?
No, I think that's the crazy thing, right? That when you're in your 20s, you do stupid things. And you're meant to be doing stupid things
you're
and
young.
getting drunk.
Young and wild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. So they all had their lives.
Yeah.
Again, it was like, the ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And so I looked around me and I got scared, to be very honest. I got scared because essentially I look at who's in my space, right? I'm like, okay, I've got me, not bad, one person. I've got Carmen, 2. I've got my family that is I'm still working on. So that's like half.
Right.
Right. And now I need to make new friends.
Yeah, not snakes, but friends.
Yes. And that part is challenging. That part is challenging because, number one, you know me in Finland, right?
Yeah.
Would you describe me as an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert. Yeah, but everyone who knew the Chan Sylvia on screen, on YouTube, how can she be an introvert? So extroverted, so much exertion, so much display, so much energy, so vibrant, so talkative. So, yeah, like you own the stage. You have presence. You're everywhere. You're giving talks.
Right.
How can you be an introvert? Don't lie.
Yes, right. So the truth was, this time when I show up, I told myself, I have to show up as my real self. And if people didn't like that, then I must accept that I won't make friends. Right? I cannot show up as the extrovert or the version that I think that people are more used to. So when I went to Finland, so for context, you had a retreat to Finland. I didn't know you then.
And I had a party here first.
Yes, which I didn't come.
The retreat party, you didn't come.
I didn't come.
But there was another party. There was a LITO Academy party that you came.
Oh, yes.
And you were already super mellow.
Oh, yes.
And resting bitchy face everything come in.
Yes.
I felt like the air molecules parted as you walked in because everyone would like, wow, oh my God, it's Chan Sylvia. Oh my God. And many people had different opinions, right, of you.
Yes.
And then you didn't come in as the showstopper. You came in as yourself. You sat quietly on the pink chair.
Yes,
this is
on
so
the pink
important.
chair.
This pink chair, right?
Yes.
And then quietly sitting there in this corner, just observing, being yourself, being very mellow, very silent, very introverted.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you for bringing your full self, your real self to this space.
I was so scared.
You were scared?
I was so scared because, so your party, right? You had a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And I was telling myself, right, I could either, there was only 2 choices. Don't have any new friends or try to find some.
What made you think that you could find friends here?
Then you weren't the first place that I went to.
Yeah.
I actually went to a lot of circles, a lot of healing places, a lot of workshops, a lot of networking, right? Just so that I could find my own tribe. And before I came to your LITO party, right? I attended at least 6 months of really plucking up the courage to go myself.
Okay.
Sometimes Carmen accompany me.
Okay.
Because she's a best friend, right? I was looking around and the truth was, every time I asked myself, you can settle. This could be your friends, right? This could. But you have to change a little bit of yourself to match them.
Okay.
Are you willing to change that little bit of yourself? I need to perform a little. Are you okay with that? And that is crazy because for 6 months, I had to grapple with, if I just perform, I can have a group of friends really.
And you used to perform a lot, right? And now it's like just 10%.
Yes.
It's very good already. Only 10%.
Yes.
So you bargain, you negotiate.
I really negotiated with myself. And some, I actually took the relationship further. I went to meet up with them. We had lunch, everything, right? And the whole time I was like, I just have to perform 10% and I'll have friends, right? I almost have nobody now. So better than nothing, right? But there was a part of me that's saying like, you have to keep looking. There must be somebody who can really accept you as you are. And then I can tell you the confidence level was at this place when I went for my first circle. And by the end of 6 months, it was like here, which is why when I went into your party, my energy was so low.
It's like you had very low expectations. The bar is very low now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really wasn't confident. I wasn't not about others, but I really wasn't confident that if I show up as my real self, the quiet me, right? And the quiet me that really don't talk about things. And I'm it's scary because all these people in the room right now, whatever we're saying now, right? It's also the first time they're hearing about this, even though for some of them, they knew me since last year.
Yeah.
So, like, I just don't like sharing. I don't like talking, right? And I don't like small
talk.
Small talk,
Yeah.
right? It's either the big conversation go deep like this,
Yes.
or we don't talk.
Yes.
So I was so scared walking into the party that if I'm just going to be a quiet self, nobody was going to like me. Right, but I was telling myself that it's been 6 months of if you don't searching, right, just be yourself and we'll see how it goes. Right then, and that day was magical for me. I want to always say that day is magical because remember I sat in this chair, which is why we have this chair for this podcast. Because I sat in this chair, I was alone in front.
Yeah.
And I could feel the eyes were on me.
Yeah.
Right, and it's the same wherever I go. Right. And I was like, there you go again. They expect me to perform. They expect me to smile. They expect me to be happy, And then one of us, right, Clara.
Hi, Clara.
Yes, she actually came up and she's like, I think everybody here knows who you are, right? But I'm going to tell you to put your name here and put a name tag because that's what we do here. And I was
Classic Clara move.
Clara, now y'all think about it, right? Not a big deal. I should just ask you to write a name tag. But guys, y'all don't know what it means to be asked to put on your name tag when you are 100% really yourself.
Yeah.
When you are that non-smiling, non-performative.
Yes.
I was like Eeyore. Eeyore from
Eeyore.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yes.
That depressed version that was low, vibing, sad, and just quiet.
Yes.
And somebody said, Eeyore, here's your tag to the party.
Yes.
Wow, that was so healing for me.
Yes. And I tell you what's also very healing is that Clara said, everybody knows who you are, but you're going to write your name and put it here. It just equalizes you.
Yes.
You are one of us. You are the same as every single participant here.
Yes.
We don't care who you are, what story you've been through. You write your name and you stick it here.
Yes.
It's so powerful and so
is
healing.
Right.
And so wise.
Yes.
Thank you, Clara.
Thank you, Clara. Yes, this is why I always love Clara. I always Clara is the class monitress. For me, she's the class monitress.
Right.
Yeah, so it's so healing because really, honestly, even I found it hard to accept the Eeyore version of myself. But somebody gave me a chance and I put on that tag and I was like, maybe in this space, I can really be myself.
Oh, that's how it started. Our love affair.
Yes.
Right? And then the retreat.
And then the retreat. Right?
Yeah, that was when you really felt.
Yes. And then I did one really scary thing at a retreat that you think maybe it's not scary, but it was very scary for me. It was when, so we went to Finland. It was snowing, it's a lovely place and everything, right? So I told myself that what if you lean in more to be yourself, right?
Even more.
Even more, right? And see if people are able to accept that. And you knew my behavior at Finland, right? Like in the mornings, do you remember where I was?
You will always be the first one to come in for breakfast, sitting in a corner of a table, quietly eating.
Correct.
Very little conversation.
Right? So actually that is me. And you know that all the, the lodges, right? They're all like cha-cha, a lot of action happening. But you know me, right? I'm really I just want to wake up really, really early by myself and I want to have my meals alone and I really don't want to talk.
Yes.
And you must be wondering, what's the big deal? I want to say it's a big deal because a lot of times I've done that in my entire life.
And it was frowned upon.
It was frowned upon. And people said things like, she thinks she's
It
all
was
that.
disallowed.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, she doesn't want to talk to us because she's
So
arrogant.
antisocial.
Yes, correct. She's
So atas.
difficult.
So
she's
high
in a
sass.
bad mood. Right, so many things.
All the judgment.
Yeah, she's a bitch. So much judgment. So for me, it was really like this really struggle. Can I wake up and go and eat breakfast alone without anybody judging me that I was angry with them or something?
Okay, so what happened?
So, I happily ate throughout the whole retreat.
Yes.
Okay. Every morning, first day I was scared.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, right, so Clara again, she was in my group. So they allowed me to just be eating in that space.
Yes.
And in the morning, the moment when they see me, right, do you know what they ask? What's good since you're already eating?
Yes.
I was like, nobody is, the usual I will get is, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, are
You
you
don't wanna
okay?
eat with us, join us lah.
Are
Why
you
come so
angry?
early?
Yeah. But this was, hey, since you're the first to eat, what are you eating? And I was like, oh my God, bitch, that, and this and this.
Yes.
And I was just allowed.
Given
be
permission,
that.
full permission to be whoever the you want to be.
Yes.
That's how we roll.
That is so healing.
It is.
And then I realized, right, every day as I do this, right, people had nothing negative to say. And they just accepted that Sylvia is somebody who is not going to talk for a greater part of the day.
And it is all right, and we love you for it.
Yes.
Right. It's not just allowing, it is celebrated.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not like our differences and our quirkiness and our like, you want to do this, you want to do this. There's no coercion, there's no
Yes.
performative behavior.
Yes.
You don't need, just let go, breathe. Nobody, if you don't want to do anything, we won't coerce you or make you do anything you don't want to do. The moment you tell us that this doesn't feel right, don't. Do something else that feels right. And we let you do that. And we feel so good that you're making intentional choices.
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, babe, you are doing what you like and you're not doing what you don't like.
Yes. That was really crazy when I realized my heart, right, really sang in Finland. Because for the first time in my life, I was like, wow, you know, there is a space for me.
I think more accurately, your heart sank to the right place. It's not trying to struggle. You know, it really
Yes.
sank and it sat.
Yes.
And it found peace and safety and security.
Yes.
You know, allowed, and a sense of belonging, like I belong here.
Yes.
When I myself, I belong. You know how beautiful that is or not?
It is crazy.
Whereas the whole world, all of us thought that we had to struggle, we had to perform in order to be
Yes.
accepted and to be belonged and not be ostracized.
Yes. Right. It's really like, oh my gosh. In my head, in Finland, with the auroras, right, I was like, oh my gosh, this is your people. You have come home.
You have come home.
There are people who are going to love you for
Right.
exactly who you are.
Yes.
Right? You don't
Yes.
have to like push yourself to do anything for them.
Yeah.
Cannot love you anyway.
Yeah.
And that's why it's crazy, right? To
crazy.
sit here and then relook at how my circle was, how it
Yes.
broke down, and then how it built
You
back.
rebuilt them again.
Yes.
You know, this idea of coming home, right, to your people, right? I feel that, yes, you're coming home to the people, right? And the people will be cheering you on. The right people will want you to come home, just like I've been rooting for you for since day one when I saw your YouTube video with Xiaxue, right? I was rooting for you. And we can't hurry it, even though I'm like anxious and I want you to win, you know? It requires you to come home to yourself first.
Yes.
We have to redefine and reframe our relationship with ourselves. That loneliness part,
Yes.
the seed of it, when we feel lonely, I feel it's because we don't have a relationship with ourselves. If we find it so hard to hang out with ourselves, we must be terrible company, you know?
Correct. Exactly.
And this is the seed of the problem, because if you are such terrible company, that's why you seek external company. And that's when you start to make wrong choices, when you don't have a solid foundation with yourself.
Yes.
So before we can come home anywhere, we have to come home to ourselves first. And
Yes.
you did the work. You spent 6 figures figuring that out.
Yes, and I
Buckets
spent
of
6
tears.
months,
Right?
you
And
know,
reparations of relationships. Reaching out, calling Nick, calling Carmen, spending time to rebuild a relationship with your family by looking at how dirty and messy it was, being in an abusive family, all of that, owning all of that is coming home to yourself before you can then come home to your people.
Yes. And really, now you think about it, it's always it's always synchronized. As you do the work, then you'll find the people. But I think right now, sitting here, right, you ask me how is it, right? Wow, I feel like I'm in a really, really amazing place.
I'm so happy to hear that.
I feel like as an onion, right? I was a very lousy onion with very broken pieces that you can't really cook me into anything, right? But now I'm a whole onion. I feel like I'm here. My body is here. My layer 1 is there. My layer 2 is there. And my layer 3 are beautiful people who seriously root for me. And I feel like as an onion, I'm really rooted. I feel like I'm safe, I'm rooted, I have groundedness. And that is why if people say, honestly, people ask, right, how dare you dare to come out and, make a podcast? I'm sure people will say that.
Yeah.
Because I'm rooted, because I know my roots are strong.
Yes.
I look at my layers and I feel so safe and protected.
Yes.
Right.
Otherwise, you would never want to do a show like this where you bare your heart and
Correct.
soul.
Exactly.
You must feel so safe.
I feel so safe.
Yeah, and this is music to my ears. You know how I've already fantasized about you winning because I feel that yes, you win, but you being an exemplary example of what's possible is going to bring so much hope to other people who are struggling with very similar issues, right? And hopefully they don't have to spend a lot of money or go through all that wrangling hardship, and we can supercharge their growth using your stories and insights and wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here,
Yes. So,
Oh my
wow.
God.
This is my story about
This is your story.
loneliness, right? About how I was truly lonely and how now I can really say from the depths of my heart, right? I'm surrounded by people who love me and root for me and care for me.
Yeah, we're all lovely furry animals. Rabbits. You're a rabbit, right?
I'm
a
a
rabbit
rabbit.
as well. We're furry
Yes.
animals. We're not snakes.
Yes. It feels, right? I'm in a community where everything is soft, fluffy,
Yeah.
caring, warm, comfortable, right? And that is such a beautiful place to be. And which is why, as I wrote this story about loneliness, I was like, there's a lot to unpack, but I really hope that people see
Yes.
what I've been through. Because if anybody is not in this place, please get here. And I know you can get here because if I can get here after all that bullshit and drama, right, you can also find your tribe.
Yeah.
You can also find people who will truly, truly accept you as you are.
Yeah.
And it is the most freeing thing.
Yeah. I think the time is right. And with all this that happened, right, all this wisdom and insight and you receiving medicine from people like Clara, people like Carmen, like the LITO community, and I receiving medicine from your story as well, doing this, right? I think there's a lot of medicine that the world needs. So what is your grand notion when it comes to relationship? I know previously your grand notion about relationship is this one true north, 轰轰烈烈的爱情, right? So what is your updated grand notion when it comes to relationships, connections, and people, and family, and coming home? What is all of that, and what would you like to build moving forward?
Oh my gosh. So now I have a very, very clear idea, right? That the most important relationship in my life, the most important is the one with myself. And I really mean it in a way that I've really started putting a lot of boundaries, right? So like my current partner is funny because every time he goes overseas, he comes back with 2 of the same presents, like exact same. Because he'll say, this is for you, this is for Carmen, yeah?
Oh my goodness. That's a right man there, man.
And I love it.
I love it too.
I love that for myself because I think I'm proud also that I've come to this place where I dare to tell somebody, right, that, I am me, right, and I'm supported by all these support network that I love, and all these people are non-negotiable, right, and you accept them, and if you don't, then it's thank you, next, right?
Thank you, next,
So it's good to feel that he also respects it. And it's good to know that there are people who will respect it.
Yeah.
But I have to first put that boundary out and have that respect for myself and say, this is what I need to feel safe.
Yes.
This is what I need to feel like I'm in full integrity.
Yes.
So now I'm very clear on my boundaries, right? These are boundaries I've put into place to protect myself. I will not back down from these non-negotiables. And yeah, it's a very healthy relationship.
I love that for you.
Yes, I feel like I'm ready to grow roots here. This is also why it's time for DMF to happen,
Right.
dirty, messy, free.
Right.
Right? Because for a long time, I was asking myself, am I ever going to come back to social media? But it was really a case where I felt very shaky. I didn't feel like I have the roots. But now it was really like I'm getting nourished by a great support system. There's no way to grow but upwards into the tree that I'm meant to be, right? And if, I grow fruits, right? Or, we can all come together at this space, to grow together.
Yes.
Which is why it is happening now that I'm
Yes.
coming back online with you.
Yeah, I love that. If you look at the analogy of a tree, I love that you brought it out, right? A tree on the surface is trunk, right? Crown of leaves, right? But what you don't see are the roots that are deeply planted underneath. And I think these roots symbolizes a whole network of support,
Yes,
right?
so
Resources and tools, right? And the events in our lives, right? What we've gone through, the hardship, the struggles, the challenges, our stories, all of that will, if we know how to alchemize and rise above them, right? They will really, really nourish you.
Correct.
They will come alive. They will nourish you and not drain or kill you.
Yes.
Right? And then from there, you can be this strong tree with a crown of luscious leaves. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited now. I see myself as a tree now, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, yay. Now I've got a trunk. I can't wait to see what this journey brings.
Right.
And what kind of tree I grow into in this new season of my life. Yes.
So with Dirty Messy Free, what we hope to build is a network, right? A support network where we
Yes.
do personal solo healing and group healing as well.
Yes, correct. So yes, DMF means a lot to me, right? It's really self-healing, it's group healing. And I hope you hear firsthand of how I think it's so important to have support network of people who are your tribe.
And are
Right.
rooting for you. Not extractive, but generative support.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why, right, we're starting this community. That's the reason why we're doing this. That's why we have an upcoming masterclass as well. So all this is so that you can experience what I have experienced, right? Like the feeling of a tribe who really loves you and roots for you.
Feel safe and secure. Thank you for sharing your story. I love you very, very much.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I love the saga and your public downfall very, very, very much too. Because if that didn't happen, none of this would have materialized and manifested. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Universe.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe some of you thought you were never gonna see me again. At the height of my 7-figure career, I was last seen brutally cancelled online. After 2 years of learning my lesson the hard way, I'm back.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm Singapore's most unconventional life coach and also Sylvia's 13th and current life coach.
And we are here to
show
show
you
you how to human.
Let's burn the manual. Also, seeking quick fixes for our issues.
New rule, we confront what makes us uncomfortable. Sitting with all our fears and despairs, it sucks. But it is the only way out.
Also, chasing external success for happiness.
New rule, happiness and success is an inside job.
Successful people who feel empty on the inside, they are a real thing.
Looking for battle-tested mentors who have been through the dirty and messy bits of life to show you how?
Join us for our masterclass called How to Human.
I've spent over 6 figures in coaching and therapy to distill these lessons, which we are going to teach you in this one class.
I'm Daniel Lim.
I'm Chan Sylvia. Let's relearn how to human.